So this IT security guy was supposed to protect the lottery system, but instead he hacked it to predict winning numbers. And it all fell apart because of hot dogs. Now, the guy's name is Eddie Tipton. Eddie's 54 years old, living in Iowa, and he's kind of brilliant, but in the worst possible way. He's literally the security director at this organization called the Multi-State Lottery Association, which is basically the company that runs lotteries across multiple states. So this dude's entire job is to make sure nobody can cheat the lottery. Bro is literally in charge of protecting the integrity of lottery drawings. But one day in 2005, Eddie gets this idea. He's sitting at his computer thinking, what if I could predict the winning lottery numbers? Now, here's the thing about Eddie. He's not just some random IT guy. He's like a legit computer whiz who's obsessed with these things called rootkits, which are basically hidden programs that can secretly control a computer without anyone knowing. So Eddie writes this piece of malicious code that can predict winning lottery numbers on very specific dates: November 23rd, December 29th, and May 27th, but only when those dates fall on a Wednesday or Saturday after 8 p.m. It's super specific, so no one will notice a pattern. In November 2010, Eddie sneaks into the secure draw room where they keep the lottery computer. He's supposed to be fixing the clock for daylight saving time, but instead, kaboom! He plugs in a USB drive and installs his secret code. And check this out, he even changes the security camera settings to only record 1 second of footage every minute. Bro is literally sabotaging the cameras that he's supposed to be in charge of. A few weeks later, a hot lotto drawing happens in Iowa, the $16.5 million jackpot. And guess who knew exactly what numbers would win? Eddie Tipton. But here's where it gets tricky. Eddie can't claim the prize himself because lottery employees aren't allowed to play. So he's like, I need someone else to buy this ticket. So Eddie puts on a hoodie to disguise himself, goes to this convenience store in Des Moines, and purchases the winning ticket. And for some reason, bro is hungry. So he's like, give me 2 hot dogs too. Those hot dogs would eventually be his downfall, but we'll get to that in a minute. So he has this winning lottery ticket, but Eddie doesn't try to claim the ticket right away. Instead, he gives it to his friend Robert Rhodes in Texas. And Rhodes tries to claim it through this super complicated scheme involving a mysterious trust based in Belize. Fast forward almost a year, and this lawyer shows up at the Iowa lottery office trying to claim the $16.5 million prize on behalf of this mysterious Belize trust. But the Iowa lottery officials are like, no, we need to know who actually bought the ticket. The lawyer refuses to say. Now, I'm going to pause for a second here. We got to talk about this man, Terry Rich. He's the CEO of the Iowa lottery, and he's not buying any of this weird Belize trust nonsense. He's like, nope, we don't pay anonymous winners in Iowa. Either tell us who bought the ticket or no money. So what happens? The mysterious trust just walks away from $16.5 million. They literally forfeit the jackpot rather than reveal who bought the ticket, and that makes the lottery people super suspicious. Like, who gives up $16.5 million? So now, the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation starts looking into this whole thing. They start digging and digging, but for almost 4 years, nothing. They hit dead ends everywhere. But then, in October 2014, they decide to try something new. They released the surveillance video from the convenience store where the winning ticket was purchased. It's this grainy 74-second clip showing some guy in a hoodie buying a lottery ticket and 2 hot dogs.
Wait, your hot dogs? Yes, sir. 370.
And here's the wild part. Several lottery employees who watched the video immediately recognized the voice in the video. They're all like, wait a minute, that sounds exactly like Eddie Tipton, the security director, the very guy who's supposed to be protecting the lottery from fraud. The investigators are like, got him! They arrest Eddie in January 2015 and charge him with fraud. At his trial, they discover that Eddie had been doing this for years. He had rigged drawings in Colorado, Wisconsin, Kansas, and Oklahoma too. They find out that Eddie had been working with his brother Tommy, who was a judge in Texas, and his friend Robert Rhodes. Eddie would tell them which numbers would win, they'd buy the tickets, and then they'd all split the money. And guess what? Eddie's brother Tommy once claimed a $568,990 Colorado lotto jackpot back in 2005. And when the FBI questioned Tommy about having all this cash, he made up this crazy story about selling a portion of a deer urine business and something about Bigfoot hunting. I'm not even making this up. Tommy Tipton and 2 of his friends were actually Bigfoot enthusiasts. They would go out looking for Sasquatch in their spare time. Like, bro, you're a judge by day and a Bigfoot hunter by night, and now you're also a lottery scammer? That's a wild combination. Anyway, the prosecutors actually had to file a motion to exclude any mention of Bigfoot hunting from the trial because they were worried it would distract the jury. Can you imagine being in that courtroom? Your Honor, I'd like to file a motion to exclude all Bigfoot-related evidence. Meanwhile, Eddie's still claiming he's innocent, but all his coworkers are like, dude, that's definitely your voice on the the video, "We work with you every day. We know what you sound like." Forensic investigators find out that Eddie had installed code that would make the lottery's random number generator not actually random on certain dates. The computer would produce numbers that Eddie could predict in advance. When they reran the software under the exact conditions Eddie had set up, they got the exact same random winning numbers. That's the smoking gun right there. Fast forward to June 2017, and Eddie finally admits everything in court. He's like, "Yeah, I wrote software that allowed me to predict winning numbers, and I gave those numbers to other individuals." The judge sentences Eddie to up to 25 years in prison.
It will be the further judgment sentence of the court that the defendant be committed to the custody of the Director of the Iowa Department of Corrections for an indeterminate term not to exceed 25 years.
Well, I certainly regret my actions. It's difficult even saying that with all the people that I know behind me that I hurt, and I regret it. I'm sorry.
His brother Tommy gets 75 days in jail, and their friend Robert Rose gets 6 months of house arrest because he cooperated with investigators. The biggest irony in all of this, those 2 hot dogs. If Eddie hadn't stopped to buy those hot dogs along with his lottery ticket, the video might not have been long enough for people to recognize his voice. They added precious seconds to his transaction, giving investigators more audio to work with. In the end, Eddie served about 5 years in prison before being released on parole in 2022. He and his brother were ordered to pay back about $3 million to the lotteries they scammed. But by 2019, they had only paid back about $1,200. They had transferred most of their assets to their mother to avoid having them seized. Today, Eddie Tipton keeps a low profile. The man who once orchestrated the biggest lottery scam in American history is now just another guy trying to stay out of the spotlight, all because of 2 hot dogs and a hoodie. That is wild.